I heard that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. I realize that we've got a packed house tonight, so if you're sitting at the end, we ask that you move in to make room for everybody that'll be filing in here shortly. All right, we'll go ahead and begin the meeting. If you'll go ahead and join me for a moment of silence, we'll just stand for about 30 seconds, kind of gather our thoughts, and then Ms. Julia Smock will go ahead and offer us our pledge, offer the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mock. We appreciate that. All right, first item on the agenda is we've convened an executive session, and we will now return from executive session. We're actually in regular session now. We'll move on with our regular board meeting, which is number 5, staff recognitions. Mrs. Dunsey, I see no students tonight. Well, we will be happy to hear it.
Thank you. So good evening, President Bullock, members of the board, and Dr. Santarelli. Since 1987, the Peoria Education Foundation community leaders have dedicated their efforts to enhancing the educational experience of our students. Peoria Unified is honored to have a foundation that serves as a unique and separate nonprofit organization from the district. And the foundation exists solely to provide enrichment opportunities through the support and resources to the exceptional students and the very hardworking teachers that we have in our district. These individuals are to be commended for the countless hours they spend supporting the Peoria School District. Before we recognize the exceptional leaders behind the Peoria Education Foundation, let me first share some remarkable things that they have done for our community. These foundation members demonstrate exemplary leadership by lending their time, their expertise, and resources so that the Peoria Education Foundation may provide grants to very well-deserving teachers and scholarships to our students. The foundation held a very fruitful Education Visionary Awards dinner this year, which led to a record amount in sponsorship and donations. As a result, the grants and scholarships reception held at Centennial High School in May of this year, we saw many dedicated teachers and students who have overcome tremendous obstacles benefit from the foundation. This year, I am proud to report the foundation awarded a record $62,000 in grants and scholarships. Through their hard work, the foundation provided opportunities to students such as Vivian Trin from Raymond S. Kellis High School, who was a top recipient of the Community Service Scholarships. Likewise, they gave Keegan Ingersoll from Cactus High School a Joseph McCord Memorial Scholarship, which was the first year that they were able to do so in Mr. McCord's name. And additionally, the foundation awarded an against all scholarships to students such as Nicholas Van Hoy from Sunrise Mountain, who, although he suffers from Crohn's disease, he still graduated very successfully and is on the path to continue his secondary education. These resilient students and many others are able to continue to pursue their dreams in part by the support of the Peoria Education Foundation. In addition to the opportunities that students have received through scholarships, these teachers within our district have also expressed how the grants have provided very unique ways to fund the multiple programs within their classrooms. The support of the Peoria Education Foundation only continues to grow, as does our appreciation for the work that is done by those that make it so successful. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the president of the Peoria Education Foundation, Tammy Caraway, so that she may share more about the astounding achievements of this exceptional group of people.
Good evening, President Bullock, members of the governing board, and Dr. Santarelli. I am so delighted to be here this evening, as I always am when you ask us to join you, to share a little bit more about the accomplishments for this past year, 2015-16. First of all, though, we do have some members of the Peoria Education Foundation Board, so I would like to ask the ones that are present, could be with us tonight, if they would stand as I announce their name. Vice President Julia Smock. Treasurer Nadina Fish. Secretary Joan Evans, who's not able to join us tonight. Tom Lonring. Kathy Oliva, and I don't believe she is able either, okay. Jeff Wooten as ex officio. Tracy Vasquez, and she was going to join us and had an unexpected commitment that she had to fulfill tonight. Let's see, Foundation board members, definitely not attending tonight, but we must give them their due. Adam Carlott, Kathy Kinneck, also ex officio, Dave Moore, ex officio, Natalie Orn, who is out on maternity leave, C.J. Smith, also ex officio, and Robert Young, who serves as an advisory role and has been a member of the board in the past. They are a very hardworking group, and they definitely have a heart for education. I'm pleased to announce also that we've just recently added 2 new board members, so we are growing. We're very excited for the future opportunities that we have in the educational world, and that we're able to continue to provide the students and parents and community, teachers, staff of the Peoria Unified District benefits. As Aaron mentioned, the foundation awarded $62,628 in grants and scholarships this year. Breaking that down, $34,628 was given out in arts and educator grants this year. That's $10,000 more than the year prior. And I'm not that great at math, but I think that's about a 30% increase. Additionally, $28,000 was presented in student scholarships, which is $15,000 more than the year prior. So that's almost double. As you can see, we set very lofty goals this year in our planning retreat over a year ago, and hope to continue meeting those benchmarks. So we have had our retreat this year and again set some additional goals. The foundation could not be more pleased to have the ability to go above and beyond the $23,000 this year, thanks to the hard work of very, very hardworking individuals. Let's give these individuals a big hand for all the things that they have done and they continue to remain committed to doing for the Peoria Unified School District. President Bullock, members of the board, Dr. Santarelli, I am happy to entertain questions, but let's give them a round of applause.
Take president's privilege and speak first. Sorry, fellow board members. Just because, and I've talked to you about this before, I may not have used this term, but you and your executive board are rock stars, and I'm about to prove it. The last 2 years, every year we go to the National School Board Association conference in different parts of the country, and we convene with 8,000 or 10,000 other board members and have different sessions. And the whole goal in that 3-day kind of super conference is to learn from each other and to learn from other boards and other superintendents and districts around the country and how to do everything better, from technology and textbooks to superintendent relations, what have you. The last 2 years, one of the breakout sessions that I've really been avid of is community outreach and education foundations. So 2 years ago, I went to 2 different breakout sessions, and this past year I went to 2 different breakout sessions. And let me tell you how amazing you are, and this is why I justify you as rock stars, because there are districts all over the country in the hundreds that were clamoring to learn what you already know and to learn the success that you've already been able to achieve. Not just comparing, but hundreds and hundreds of people in these conferences wanting to know how can we do what other districts and even what Peoria is doing. I'm telling them the kind of money we're raising in our organization, like, how are you doing it? It's amazing. That's what we're trying to learn. We want to do that. With education cuts, Arizona is not the only state with cuts. Arizona is not the only state that needs help from their citizens and their community. So what you have achieved is what other districts around the country are dying to know, how you created such a successful program. So that right there underscores the excellence that you've created, how proud we are as a board and a district of what you've done, and your group. Obviously, it takes more than one to do it, but you've been a great leader, and Mrs. Connect has been a great leader, and others as well. So that justifies it for me, how successful you are, that everyone's trying to emulate what the Peoria Education Foundation is doing. So that's the highest form of compliment you can get. So thank you very much for what you've done for us.
Well, thank you. Incredible words. Thank you very much.
Oh, congratulations, 62,000 is phenomenal. I just want to know, how did you raise it this year?
Gosh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. We just continually seek different avenues of how we can bring sponsorships in and really help the community understand what it is that we're doing and what the mission is. I think the heart of it is people understanding and recognizing what the mission is and how valuable it is to the community. And so that sends a big message to people.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Can I just say one thing?
Could you go to the microphone so we can hear you?
We added a principal from a high school and a principal from an elementary school as part of the group non-voting members, and they have given us some great ideas and some really, and some very successful campaigns that we would not have thought of, I think, without them. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that.
I'm going to piggyback just real quick on Ms. Pengroy's question. Can you give us a specific, because we're learning too, obviously, and the community would like to know, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into your question. Can you give us an idea, an example of one way or one avenue for actually raising money? You say sponsorships and whatnot. Is that, and we know there's sponsors of the different events you do. You see their banner, they're in the brochure, what have you. Is it a matter of those organizations, those local businesses contribute money? They're just donating money and time to help that fund?
It's really a multifaceted effort. It's everything from time and actual dollars, but also when you go to the different events and you see the silent auction items and those types of things, we really specifically create an outreach to give them ideas of opportunities how they can support the foundation. So there is a lot of really one-to-one outreach and helping them understand what it is that they can do specifically for us. And as Julia said, I think the other thing is we did look at our board over the last couple of years and look at the cross-section of representation. And I think creating a diverse cross-section of representation was also a valuable turn. Bringing Jeff and CJ on board was tremendous. I mean, that was a really fun retreat that we had a year ago. So that is finding out what it is that is really specific to each campus, what helps the principals at each campus, and thus the teachers and staff there. I think that really helped our roadmap.
Great, good. I want a little bit better idea too, what exactly, how's money coming in? That's great, the local community. Mr. John again?
No questions. I just want to also say thank you so very much. 60,000 plus is awesome. You indicated it was a nice improvement, roughly 30% more from last year. Maybe an insight as to what we're looking at for next year's goals. Another 30% on top of that. I'm just asking.
40%.
40%. Hey, why
30
not?
was so last year.
I'm putting them on the spot.
Yeah, $1 million.
No, I'm looking back to my treasurer because sometimes I don't hold all these numbers in my mind every day. But we're targeting another 15 plus, maybe 20 to 30. But we definitely don't want to. We definitely want to set our goals where they're realistic, but it is stretching us each time. We definitely want to stretch. So ideally, we want to be at that $75,000 mark.
Awesome.
Well, you have my deepest respect and admiration for all that you do. That's just tremendous, tremendous work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stone?
Well, I would like to just extend my thanks to everybody that spends so much time doing this. I mean, stuff like that can just eat your life. So I'm very appreciative, and I know that it's a sacrifice. It's a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Doan. It's a pleasurable sacrifice, because we know what the outcome is. We know that for every student that we can help with a scholarship, or every teacher that we can provide a grant for, it makes it just that much better for their educational experience. So thank you all for your kind words.
Yeah, I've got a great suggestion on how to make some extra money, maybe to help you reach that goal of 75. Principal Wooten, I think you could charge probably $5 for every time he goes woo woo like that. You could hire him out to like different schools and different corporate events and different parties to do that, like for $5 a piece. I mean, there's some cash on the table, my friend.
You know, he didn't share that brainstorming with us. He's holding out. Yeah, that's your capstone, isn't it?
Anyway, I think there's money on the table there. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Ms. Dunsey? Okay. Dr. Santarelli?
Well, thank you, Mr. Bullock, members of the governing board. Certainly my personal note of appreciation to the foundation. Your tireless commitment and passion to this district is unprecedented, and you've done remarkable things through the years. So thank you for all that you've done to support students and staff. A couple of recognitions. Recently we found out that an Ironwood High School graduate, year of 1990, was just named the interim police chief for the city of Glendale, alumni Rick St. John. Congratulations to Mr. St. John. Another one of our cherished assets, Old Main, recently highlighted in the Arizona Republic as one of those historic must-see properties in the West Valley. So hats off to Old Main and all those that were helping us keep that building alive and vibrant. And speaking of Mr. Wooten, I had the pleasure of attending a recognition luncheon just a couple of weeks ago where our very own Mr. Wooten, principal at Raymond S. Couse High School, named the 2015-2016 Distinguished High School Administrator of the Year. Congratulations, Mr. Wooten. And it's always a lot of fun to recognize students and staff of this fabulous district, but I also had the pleasure of being in the audience and watching a fabulous performance that was given by one of our very own governing board members. And that was Mr. Jonigan, who is part of a pretty impressive rock band called Euphoria. So talent goes everywhere, even at the board table. Mr. Jonigan, congratulations. I do have pictures if anybody's interested. Thank you, Mr. Bullock.
You bet. T-shirts for Mr. Jonigan's band are available out in the lobby for $20 a piece.
Donations all, or proceeds all go to the Peoria Unified
Wow. Okay, I knew this place would light up. We just got the right match underneath it. Thank you, everybody. Keep it going. All right, wonderful. Thank you. We'll move on now to next item on the agenda is a board recognitions. We'll start to my right again. Ms. Pangarelli, any board recognitions this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay, Mr. Jonigan?
Nothing specific, but I do just want to take a couple moments here and just say thank you once again. I know we've done this a couple times, but tonight being the last board meeting of one Dr. Santarelli,
Yeah.
35 plus years with the district. A short time I've gotten to know you recently of the 35 years, but just thank you for all you've done that I know about, and a lot of that stuff that I don't know about that you've done for the last 35 years, making this district the cornerstone, the crown jewel, if you will, of districts in the state of Arizona, and you will be sorely, sorely missed.
Thank you all very much, and as you know, you've heard me say this before, but I have to say it one more time. It has been my sincere honor and privilege, and thank you for allowing me.
Mrs. Doan?
I don't have anything.
Okay. I actually have a couple, and we're going to slather it on, as they say in the barbecue world, Dr. Santarelli. Apparently some more awards. I think if you get decorated any more, I don't know, there's going to be some kind of record there, but we do have some additional recognitions for Dr. Santarelli, so if you'll lend an ear, I will read them. They are thusly. Dr. Santarelli, on behalf of the governing board, you're not aware of this?
I'm not, no. I think
Yeah.
we're off script.
You will. We'd like to recognize and thank you for the leadership for 2 national CTE awards for the Peoria Unified School District. Here, the 2 of them are the Excellence in Action Award for Peoria Unified's partnership with the Maricopa County Community College District for stackable credentials, and for the Innovative District Award from the International Center for Leadership and Education. We recognize that both of these prestigious awards are appropriate. Your leadership and contributions to CTE in the district are well appreciated. So even more on his way out, he is still running rings around every superintendent in the free world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
And I also, as Mr. Jonigan said, wanted to, with your last board meeting here, I reached, I guess, a fork in the road, and I use that term a lot. Do I say something kind of, stately and presidential, or do I just go unfiltered on you? And I've decided to do neither. And just give you a sincere thanks. I've said this before, and it bears repeating. Thank you for making my board membership and my board term, it's already been 3.5 years already, enjoyable, challenging, educational, meaningful, and I just appreciate the fact that you cared about my education, and not because I'm your boss, but more importantly, because you really want to see a successful board, because you realize, it's not all superintendents do, let's face it, you realize that a successful, well-educated, well-oiled machine known as the board only makes the district better. And I think your leadership in the school district is well known, but not so much on the board. And the board functions well because you've helped train us and guided us and provided direction. You didn't always agree, which is good, but you led us along and helped push us to a point where we wanted to learn more for the betterment of the district. And I think all of us are better board members, and I'll speak for Mrs. Connect as well, who was here the longest, which we excused her tonight. She's on ASBA business. I apologize not saying that. But your leadership has helped pull us and push us to where we are a much better board than we would have been. So thank you, because this has been an enjoyable experience. I didn't know when I ran for election, I had a rough idea what the school board was. I been a parent and was involved for years on the PTA and volunteer at my kid's school, but I had no idea what the board could be. I heard the good, the bad, and the ugly. And thank you for making it good and challenging, and really, hopefully, a springboard for other opportunities in my future. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to also break a little bit of protocol here, even though we're going to be voting on this later, but I really think it bears, I may be out of line, bears at this point. Dr. Cruz. Dr. Cruz has made her announcement, and I would like to tell you thank you. I layered on and slathered on Dr. Santarelli, but you also taught me a lot. You also got me in position and helped me learn a lot and have a thirst for learning about the inner workings of a district. That helped me to be a better board member as well. So I'm sorry, and I thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Number 7, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. Do we have any green slips tonight, Mrs. McCarty? No. All right, thank you very much. Number 8, address agenda and consider adoption or recommend changes. A chance for the board to rearrange the agenda for any reason. Do we have any rearrangements tonight? Nope. All right, we'll move on as stated. Number 9, consideration to uphold or overturn teacher recommendation regarding pupil retention based on findings determined in executive session. And again, that was the executive session we had earlier before we came out to this public meeting. So board members, we've been able to discuss in executive session. If there are no other comments or questions, then this motion takes an action as stated, or you can certainly restate the motion if you want. Do I have a motion?
I will motion that the governing board uphold the teacher recommendation for retention.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Jonigan, seconded by Mrs. Doan. This is a voting item. Cast your vote, if you will, board members. Okay, this passes 4-0. Thank you very much, members. Next item on the agenda is number 10, the discussion and consideration of the publication of the proposed 2016-2017 maintenance and operations and district additional assistance budgets and authorization to hold a public hearing no later than July 15th, 2016. Mr. Hicks, welcome, sir.
Good evening, President Bullock, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Santarelli, Dr. Heather Gruz, colleagues, community members, thank you very much for allowing me to present tonight. So this is our proposed budget that I'll go through pretty quickly here since we've been talking about this for about 8 months. We've had lots of meetings. We've talked about salary increases and everything. So this really is capturing everything we've talked about. So I'll just hit some of the high levels at this point. Probably the first and foremost, the one that people do look at a little bit is the tax rate, what is happening to it. Right now, it is still estimates. We're working or finishing up our advice of encumbrance that we send to the county. That's a snapshot in time that we guess where our revenues and cash is, send it to the county. This is the last year since they're taking that pretty much out of our hands. So this last year we have to do all that. The process will change next year. And then they will set a tax rate on the August meeting with the County Board of Supervisors. We're always a little wrong, so we're just doing an estimate. So this is just clearly an estimate. We think there'll be a slight increase in the primary tax rate. The secondary tax rate is increasing. We know that we passed override with the override going from 10% to 13%. We did estimate that was going to be around 39 cents. It's a little less, but we also have a little bit more on the from the bond side that we're selling the bonds and planning for that. But it still nets out to around 38 cents. So it is still pretty close now. Depending on where exact cash lands in that fund, the tax rate will change a little bit on that side. So, but that really is out of our hand, but that is really what our estimate is.
Mr. Hicks, if you may ask a question, because that's a really pivotal slide there, even though it's only 4 points. 2 questions, just for the good of the order. 495 and 322 is per $1,000 of assessed property value for our homes, to simplify it, correct?
Yep, correct.
All right, and to state it, although the increase of 2 cents or 38 cents is basically flat with where we've been before, could you bottom line that as far as, it's a tax increase, it's not a tax increase? Give me an idea, kind of, and boil it down.
It is a slight tax increase. It will be a net tax increase. So even though you have assessed valuations fluctuating a little bit because of the override going from 10 to 13%, we do have a slight increase going from there.
Okay.
So yes,
All right.
they will see a slight increase in their taxes. Now, once again, I'm saying this is an estimate. It could change a little bit, but I would say by and large, everybody in our district will see on their secondary tax rate a slight increase.
Okay, good, thank you. Just want to make sure that's clarified.
It is important as we've gone through our budget process just to remember just some of the basics. And so a basic where we talk about everything is the number of students. We look at weighted student count. So we took our Group A, which is just the regular ed kids, but then we look at our services we're provided, and that comes to a weighted amount. So even though we have around 36,000 students, we have the equivalent, a weighted student count of about 47,000, and that is slightly an increase over last year. Now, the actual ADM, average daily membership, the actual enrollment is down a little bit, but because we're providing more special ed services, so similar to what I said in May, because of that, we have a net increase in our weighted student count. And although it's 25, it is essentially the same, but it is a slight increase year over year. It is important to note going forward next year, current year funding is in place. And so although a lot of people think, oh, it's not in place, there's a financial hold harmless, but we're still implementing current year funding. So there's some, on the budget forms going forward, there'll be some areas to identify if it's down or up, and if it's down, what would be the decrease, but let's backfill it from ADE. And so I know that was a large conversation during the whole legislative process, but it is in place. $207 million is our total M&O budget. We have the override increase, we have the Prop 123 increase, we have the inflation increase, and then obviously the student count. So all those 4, none of those are a surprise. We've been talking about that throughout the whole year, but that is what is embedded into that $207 million. That's the M&O side. I do refer to capital, and capital district additional assistance I use synonymously, and that's because it used to be called the capital fund, even though they changed the name. That amount is the $7.8 million. It is important to note we're still being reduced by around $15 million. We don't know the exact amount each year because the legislature chose to make that reduction based on the proportional amount of students in those state aid districts, and so we don't know that number until the end of next year. We assume it's going to be around 15 million is going to be our reduction this year. All of our school and department allocations continue, but remember that is, we have cut their allocations in half. And so their capital amount for the schools has been cut in half. That was this year, technically it's still this year. Next year, that cut continues. So I just want to remind people. We are carry forward approximately $4 million, but some of that's going to the curriculum instruction. We did do the math adoption, so we will be using some of that for next year in that sense. So just to remind everybody, one just general overall statement too, this is our proposed budget. It will be the exact same for our adopted. We will be revising in December when we include for the annual financial report of this past year when we bring forward all of our carry forward balances. So we take a very, very conservative approach to our carry forward at this point. Classroom site fund, just a reminder, this is the Prop 301 fund. We look at our three funds, the base pay, the performance pay, and then technically we call it the other. And so that's 20% of the money coming from classroom site fund goes into the base pay, and then 40% and 40% it gets split appropriately. They must stay in each one of those buckets. Now that budget is coming in a little bit less, a little over $1 million less. It's coming at 15.9 million. The carry forward's coming down, the amount that we're getting per student is coming up, and so there's a little bit going. We have to assume our payments, we're paying out everything. So when we revise the budget in December, because AFR, you will see this go up, but we have to make the assumption right now, performance pay is being paid out. We'll have a carry forward and we'll plug that in at that point. The other funds, I do try to select a few of the big ones just to kind of hit on some of them. The adjacent ways, we are projecting 1.1 million. Now every year we work with a facilities administrator, and we make sure we don't ever project more projects in this fund than, well, not ever. We try on a year-to-year basis not to project more projects than what this fund has in it, or else it will generate an additional tax to our local. So this is on the primary side. If the board approves, say we wanted to do $2 million, we would technically levy $900,000. I would disclose this to the board, but for the last few years, we've been doing everything we can to manage the project, spread them out, so that we have no increase in taxes, so there's no new tax levy. This continues in that vein. Indirect cost fund, we do plan on spending at least $860,000 right now. Instructional improvement fund, that is a cash fund, so we put the same amount that we had last year, but we will adjust that as the cash comes in. That is not a budget-controlled fund, so and they only make the payments I think it's only twice a year, and so we really don't know until the next payment comes in July what the last year was. We'll make the budget revisions in December on that cash. For federal and state grants, we keep whatever was the official amount at the last year, which is this year. We roll that forward until we get the official change, then we'll make the change in our budget. And so as we're going through the budget process right now of our title funds and our federal funds, since most of the state grants have been cut, we will make those adjustments in our December revision. And that is the budget in a snapshot. I know we've been talking a lot about it over the last 8 months or so. When I come back in July 14th, I believe is the time that I'll be coming back in front of you, we will have, at that time, whenever we have adopting a budget, so this is just approving the proposed budget so that we can put it on ADE's website, do all of our, put it on our website, get the word out. Here's our adopted budget that we're recommending. At that point, we'll also have a public hearing. Nothing will change between now and then and what's happened. So I'll do another quick presentation similar to what I'm doing now. We'll allow the public to talk and then put it up for your vote. And so I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Look to my left. Mrs. Doan, any questions?
No, I would just like to say you look refreshed and comfortable. Thank you. I'm glad you
Thank you very much.
had, yeah.
Feel better.
It was a good presentation, yes.
Refreshed and comfortable.
Yes, he does.
Wow. They'll say. Mrs. Pangarelli, questions, comments? Mr. Jonigan. I have one quick question. What happened to simplifying school finance? Where did that ever end up? Because after that, and again, I took college calculus, and my head still spins as much as I try and learn little by little. and that wonderful committee that was called to simplify public education financing, which was wonderful, sir. Where is that, just for the heck of it?
President Bullock, members of the board, we do try to do everything we can to simplify it.
Yeah.
Classroom Sci First did meet this Tuesday, so we continue to meet, so that committee is still going. I did bring up almost exactly what you brought up right there. The difficulty is, the goal might be to simplify. The more you simplify, the more you have to go to the average of the average, which means you lose detail. And so the thought is, let's address poverty, let's address alternative education. The only way to address that is not through the average of the average, increase the average, or else that just gives us more money, and the legislature, that's not where they're at right now. And so there is a little push me, pull me llama going on, a little conflict, where the goal is to simplify, but the only way to address some of the needs that are out there is to create some additional complexity. And so it is a dilemma that's out there. The committee's still looking. I would think that it'll probably take another 6 months before we finalize some recommendations. It'll be interesting what those recommendations are, but that is one of the primary goals. And I do think there'll be some simplification, but I don't think we're going to get to a point where the community, the legislature, where people wanted it, which is every parent could understand very quick and easy exactly how much money is coming in, where, and what their student is. There's just so much. Every time the legislature gets together and pass something, they create complexity. And so that's just the nature of the game. We're going to have to live with that. So that's where we are right now.
And I think you just answered my next question. Things are complex because of one of two reasons. Either someone makes them complex, or the very nature of their origin and charge is they are complex.
Yeah.
So a nuclear power plant is complex because it has to be. Sometimes legislative or what have you, it's complex because it's made that way and it doesn't need to be. So that's interesting, the dichotomy there. So anyway, I look forward, and I'm happy to see that although you're refreshed and comfortable, I'm surprised you still have hair being on that committee. So
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda is
This is
number.
an action
Oh,
item.
This is a voting item.
oh, gosh, I got so excited with that comfortable and refreshed, I forgot to vote. Let's go back, shall we? I apologize. And I even saw action. My apologies. I will, hold on a second. There we go. Okay, thank you very much. So yes, we do need a motion and a second to move this to a vote.
I will move that we, went backwards. That we approve the publication of the proposed 2016-2017 maintenance and operations and district additional assistance budgets, and authorize a public hearing no later than July 15th, 2016.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you.
Hold on, I'm going to need a second. I'm having a little technological problem.
It's my fault. But I'm glad did you notice that the entire crowd, when I forgot to call for a vote, instantly, it's an action item vote, everybody was on it. Thank you. Wow. Of course. Yes. This vote has been made, as Mr. Johning just mentioned, this vote is being made complex because of technical difficulties. Well stated, sir. Well stated.
Okay, there we go.
It has just been uncomplexitized. There's a good word there. I patent it and I trademark it. Cast your votes, members, and passes 4-0. Now, thank you, Mr. Hicks. All right, next item on the agenda is number 11, the discussion and consideration, if deemed advisable, to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of tax anticipation notes on behalf of the district. Mrs. Myers, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much. President Bullock, members of the governing board, Dr. Santarelli, and Dr. Cruz. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening to provide information regarding the possible authorization of tax anticipation notes to be sold by the district, not to exceed $40 million. And at this time, I would like to formally introduce and recognize Mr. Bill Davis, Managing Director with Piper Jaffray and Company, the district's financial advisor related to this pending sale. Mr. Davis will be available to answer questions regarding the documents attached to this agenda item after the presentation. Tax anticipation notes, or TANs as they're commonly referred to, are similar to securities like bonds, but with a shorter repayment time frame, typically 1 year or less. For the last several years, the district has issued TANs, or tax anticipation notes, in conjunction with using the credit line at the Maricopa County Treasurers to address uneven revenue payment streams that we receive during the year from the state. The uneven revenue streams include a very large deferred payment that we receive in July after the June 30th year end. And for this fiscal year, that deferred payment is estimated to be approximately $39.6 million. The reason why the Peoria District issues TANs instead of relying solely on our credit line is because the interest rate related to TANs is typically 40 to 50% less than the interest rate for the credit line at the treasurer. In fact, the treasurer reported in fiscal 2015 that Arizona school districts saved over $1.1 million in interest by issuing TANs for short-term financing needs. The tax anticipation notes are repaid from taxes, state aid, and interest revenue. The Maricopa County Treasurer does move monies from our Maintenance and Operation Fund in May to secure that repayment of the notes the following July. In fiscal 2016, the district issued $40 million worth of tax anticipation notes, and administration is recommending that the board approve the resolution to issue $40 million again this year for fiscal 17. Concludes the presentation for the tax anticipation notes, and at this time, we are available to answer your questions.
Good, thank you very much. Start to my right, Ms. Pangarelli, questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Johnigan?
Just more for an education on myself. You said that the interest rate on these are less than the other options. What kind of dictates, you know, like in a bond, there's credit ratings and so forth that contribute towards what we put these out as? Can you educate me just a little bit on what drives that interest rate on the TANs?
We certainly can, and Mr. Davis is available to provide information on what affects the interest rate with our TAN sale.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Santorelli, good evening again. My name is Bill Davis. I'm with the firm of Piper Jaffray. Specifically, the interest rate on the notes, when they're purchased by the county treasurer, they're set based on the one-year treasury rate. So the interest rate is basically the one-year treasury rate plus 25 basis points. Today, that treasury rate's just under 60 basis points, so the yield that the treasurer will get is, you know, if we were pricing them today, it would be around 85 basis points. So again, that compares, so your overall, you know, and then when you factor in all the costs, the legal fees, financial advisor fees, and that sort of thing, you know, the estimated interest rate today would be somewhere around 1.2%, and that compares to the credit line of about 2.3%, getting back to what Michelle mentioned earlier. So still very attractive rate for 1 year. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
At that rate, do you lend to small businesses?
Way to do that.
Thank you, I'd love that rate.
Yes.
Mrs. Doan, any questions,
I have
comments?
no questions.
Oh, a couple questions. Oh, and straighten me out, and maybe this is more for Mrs. Myers, but maybe you can chime in as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember asking this question, Mr. Hicks, last year. We basically, and I'm going to, again, bottom line it, we basically don't get all the money we're supposed to from the state in time to make end-of-year payments. So we, in essence, need to borrow until we get reimbursed from the state or paid from the state to make everything. So in essence, we are selling these bonds, even though it's at a very, very attractive, approximately 1.2%. Of course, we're not holding you to that. We're still paying interest because we're not getting paid on time from the state. Is that anywhere near accurate or not?
That is an accurate statement. We pay interest on the tax anticipation notes as well as the credit line that we use with the treasurer.
Okay, and I remember, and this is from last year, and I remember asking Mr. Hicks, and it was something in the area of like $80,000 of potential interest. And again, I'm not saying that's the exact amount, but it was some amount that was obviously, something you would look at and say, that's so unfortunate. If you look at 1.2%, but that's per annum divided by 12, we're saying, actually it is a full year. So we're looking at 1.2% of that $40 million, if indeed that's the amount, the rate right there. So that's what, about 42,000, 44,000?
Well, the interest will be higher than that, and Mr. Davis could speak to the TAN sale itself, but between the treasurer and the tax anticipation note sale, the interest cost to the district exceeds several $100,000.
Okay.
And so there is a cost to the deferral of the payment that we wait for, and then we have cash flows that we need to manage throughout the year. So it's not just that year-end deferral, but it's the payment streams not being regular throughout the entire year.
Right, and so, and I bring this up, I'm gonna bring the same thing I said last year, because that really frustrates me, because we are so thin on cash, and we always talk about how can we possibly help out a little bit, and we're, as a board, we're arguing and discussing how to give a 0.5% here, a 1/4% there, and we have, in essence, the salary of many teachers that we have to give away, and of course, it's a cost of money, we never argue that, I mean, we have to do what we have to do, but several teachers' salaries equivalent are sent in interest payments because we don't get our money when we're supposed to from the state. So to my friends who are very active, put that in your email and send it out, because that alone right there is very frustrating, and I'm just speaking for myself, but it's another way where that's several hundred, that's more than the 80,000 I was calculating, several $100,000 that we're spending that could be going to M&O teachers, bus drivers, food service workers, whoever. How sad. That needs to be communicated. That's my challenge to all of you. Sorry, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but oh well, it's my last year on the board. Okay, I can do it. So thank you very much. I just want to make sure that I was understanding that correctly, but if you want to.
I just add.
Yeah, you bet.
The points, I think, and one of the true benefits of the tax anticipation notes are that the net result of what you're saying is exactly right, because a big reason, and the primary reason that districts have cash flow problems is because not only of the state withholding state aid, but the other big revenue stream that you get is property taxes, and that comes in 2 big installments.
Mm-hmm.
One of the true benefits of the tax anticipation note program, however, is that we anticipate those deficits, and the district borrows the money. The dollars will be deposited in the district's account at the treasurer's office sometime on or around July 20th. And we talked about, your interest cost is going to be estimated 1.2, 1.25%. But what happens is that the treasurer invests those dollars for you on your behalf. And so today they're earning 80 to 90 basis points. In addition, the notes allow the district to prepay your insurance premium, and those dollars, while they're at the trust, are actually earning more than that. So this past year, your actual interest expense was just a little bit above $300,000, but you earned, in terms of actual hard interest dollars at the treasurer's office and at the trust, something close to $240,000, $250,000. So your net cost is
Maybe that's where I got the 80 from last year. Okay.
Exactly, right. And then, when we compare that to what your cost would have been under the credit line, then, the net benefit actually comes back to a positive. But there's clearly a cost, and Mr. President, you're exactly right. A lot of it's driven just by the cash flow nature of, school finance in Arizona and the state withholding your state aid monies.
Yeah, and I appreciate that explanation. Like I say, maybe that's where I got the 80 from last year. But no, it's necessary. And I'm not talking to you out of your good financial work that you do for us. It's one of those many things, unrelated. So amazing. I'm glad we do it. I'm glad it works to our benefit. But it's one of those, and it's going to sound bad, necessary evils.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So anyway, but thank you for your help in getting us on that road there. So any other questions, comments? Nope? Okay, great. Thank you, Mrs. Myers. And this is an action item, which I noticed before we moved on. We need a motion and a second to move this to a vote. Do I have a motion?
I will motion that the governing board adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of tax anticipation notes and authorizing the board president to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
I will second that since I talked too much. So, moved and seconded. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes 4-0. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time for being here tonight. All right, next item on the agenda is report and discussion on local, state, and federal legislative issues and activities. Dr. Centerly, I'm expecting big things this last board meeting.
Lots, I certainly don't want to disappoint. In my last meeting, Mr. Bullock, so a little pressure applied there. As Mr. Hicks indicated, he has continued to represent us well on the State Classroom First Committee, and as he alluded, that work is ongoing, and he will continue, I'm sure, to keep you apprised of that. But certainly I'd like to express my appreciation to him for continuing to represent not only the Peoria School District, but certainly all of district public education very well. And we know it's been an uphill run, but thank you for continuing to take on that for all of us. And then lastly, as you said, Mr. Bullock, Dr. Cruz has indicated that she will be resigning effective at time in the very near future. And I'd also like to personally thank her for her leadership that she's provided to me and to the district for 5 wonderful years. And certainly I would like to also personally wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Bullock.
All right, next item on the agenda is request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. I'll start with my right. Ms. Pangarelli, anything tonight? Mr. John again? Mrs. Doan? I would like to add one for a future meeting. We had discussed when we had our compensation, different board meetings and our special board meeting on compensation, we talked about having a board member on the compensation committee, non-voting, but have someone there to represent, to be able to report back to us some more of the deeper details. And we as a board committed to teachers and or classified, certified administrative, let's get the different divisions there. We committed that we would take more of an active role to understand so that we could vote proactively and help proactively, maybe earlier in the year versus waiting to the last minute and then having a big, big brouhaha about what our final decision is. So I would like to have that on a future board meeting agenda to be able to nominate, however the proper way of doing it, but nominate a board member to be on that committee for this year. So do I have any support for that?
I will support that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, that's it. We'll move on to the next agenda item is number 14, consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Board members, do we want to pull any reports or any items on the consent agenda? Mrs. Doan? Not tonight? Nothing, okay. Having said none, we'll move on, because it's an action item, move on to a vote. So I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I will move that the governing board approve the items on the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, do I have a second? Second, Ms. Pangarelli, thank you. All right, 4-0 passes, thank you very much, or 4 and 1 abstain, or 1 absent. Next item on the agenda is number 29, our Budget Facilities Planning Construction Report. And as I always mention, I'll keep mentioning it till the end of the term, is these are all available online. Here's another, I'm going to give another thanks because it's your last board meeting, Dr. Centerelli. Thank you for being a strong advocate for transparency. And I realize that the financial department, Mr. Hicks, Mrs. Myers, and others are the ones who execute that. But thank you for hearing our constant nagging for transparency and making it available for those who desire to, find it on our website and do the research. It's up to them at that point. So thank you. We, again, winning awards for our financial reporting. So thank you very much for that. Okay, again, this is a great report because it shows what's happening at a school near you. Again, repairs, upgrades, security, safety, air condition when it's 176 outside. Thank you. District budget report for the month of May 2016 is our next report. There you go. This is, Mr. Hicks covers this at least every month in some way, shape, or form, but this is a nice amalgamation or consolidation of all that he talks about. And any further questions, we're always happy to answer those or get that information for you. Next item is a district enrollment report for May 2016, which have been our last month of the 2015-2016 school year. Good chance to see where your local school or maybe where your kids or grandkids go, how that ended up for enrollment. Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda, report on upcoming meetings and events. Mrs. McCarty pointed out or made me aware of one change. The last item, August 23rd, the board meeting at the end of August is actually August 25th. So that will be updated on our website, but as of right now, it states the 23rd. That is actually just a typo. It's August 25th. Let's see. We're already talking about back to school. Oh my gosh. Okay, slow down time. Study session right there, July 18th, board members at Old Main, board superintendent, new superintendent, Dr. Stifler, so put that on your calendar if it's not already there. And draft agenda for July 14th, 2016 regular board meeting. If you can pull that one up, we'll get an idea of what's coming in our next action-packed board meeting. Okay, Mr. Hicks will be on the public hearing for one of his favorite items of the year. Good. All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is our board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Board members, would you like to bring back and go back in time and pull anything up and discuss it again? Is it gone? Okay. We'll move forward as stated on to our last and saddest moment, the consideration of adjournment. We need a motion and a second to adjourn our meeting tonight.
I will motion that we adjourn.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. This requires a vote to go home. My last board meeting, I'm going to oppose it, just so you know. I'm going to let you know that ahead of time. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.